Good morning, English 119. This is Grant, and I'm recording this message this morning to help you think about your presentations in a more visually compelling way. And I think the best way to do that is to think of your presentation as a movie. And I'll get into more of what that means, but what I want you to do is to think primarily what you're communicating visually, right? Does that tell a story? If someone muted your presentation, could they understand what you're trying to argue? And then, second to that, is that argument that you're putting forth visually the same as you're doing written or, talking or whatnot? Okay. So a lot of you are going to use PowerPoint or Google Slides or Keynote. That's fine. Today, whatever works for you. I like the Apple one, Keynote, but everyone kind of has their preferences. But the main point that I want you to think about is accessibility. So when you're making presentations, right, you never know who's in the audience, and if they have any kind of impairment that your presentation exacerbates. Like, I don't have the best vision, so if it's really hard to read your presentation, I'm not going to pay attention, right? And so we want, everyone to be able to understand your presentation. So in today's class, I put some guidelines from Microsoft on making your PowerPoint really accessible. But, the things that you want to think about when you are doing a presentation is these kind of aspects, right? Cognitive, right? Is your presentation easy to follow, right? Do you make your points really clear? In a presentation, you're only going to probably, and especially in a 10-minute presentation, you're only going to be able to make like maybe 2 or 3 points maximum. So how can you signpost and make sure that your audience sees that? You can do something like, I will argue these 3 things. 1, this. 2, this. 3, that. Right? And then you repeat that. Here's my first point. Visual, like I said before, your PowerPoint or Google slide needs to tell a story on its own, separate from whatever you're going to context it, right? It should tell some sort of story. Auditory, presentations are really, multi-sensory experiences. So you want to make sure that you are, inflecting your voice. If you're at a venue, you want to always use the microphone. Some people don't like to use microphones. You always should use a microphone. Motor functions. This usually has to do with contrast and colors. Sometimes we have bad vision. And then speech, making sure that you're clear, you project, and you don't do what I just did with ums. So, stuff like this of, black background, white text is oftentimes harder for people to read than black text on a white background. So there's just certain things that you want to think about when you are choosing colors, choosing contrast. Like, you want things that have good contrast. For a few of you on your Unit 1 projects, I kind of gave you some feedback that it was really hard to see the text. So you want to think about those things. This is also an example of you need to put your citations in your presentation. It's typically on the last slide. Okay, so presenting is all about being comfortable with your own voice. Like, I have to record a ton of videos and edit them. I have to listen to my voice all day long. I am not a huge fan of my own voice, but you have to get used to it. We live in such an age now where you have to record things and record videos and post them. So you're going to need to get comfortable with listening to your own voice. And that only comes with continually to listen to it and to edit. Okay, let's get into storyboarding, which is typically used, right? You're used to it with movies or TV shows, right? It's to figure out what shots you're going to make, right? And so the storyboard should tell a story. Sometimes you need additional context, right? Like, we're not quite sure exactly what's going on, but we definitely know, there is a person that shot someone and they're busting through a, fence to get into this pool area. So you want something like this to kind of give yourself a story. Storyboard defined is a sketch of how to organize a story and a list of its contents. So I like to use storyboards better than outlining. And then, I've been saying this again and again. What story does the sequence of your images tell? So, these are shots from Ken Burns' Civil War documentary. And Ken Burns, was famous for the effect that moves across images, and he was able to get images to feel like they're moving. But, he's always a very good filmmaker. And you got to think, in a Civil War documentary, a lot of your documents are letters. And so you have these images of the town and the city and things around, and then you have personal images of people, so you know who's talking, right? Like, the visual information tells us that we're reading the letter of this person. So it's important to think about, what kind of images are you doing, and how does what you're talking about support those images, right? And sometimes still images, especially when you're doing a movie, they're good to kind of sit and contemplate on. And you want to think about that same thing for your slides. People are going to be looking at your slides for a couple minutes. So you got to really think about what they're looking at. So this technically is what a storyboard looks like. You have the slide at the top, which you're going to think, you could write down or insert whatever image or visualization that you're going to put in here. And then you want the narration, or what you're going to be talking about underneath that. So, like the one example I showed you of my talk, I just put numbers in. And that's one way to do it. I like this way better of what exactly are you going to be talking about under each slide? So I know I showed you this in the beginning of the semester, but you want to think about a sequence of images. I think you remember this one about the coffee, right? Right, so it's trying to give you a bunch of images to explain Zizek's concept that you buy Starbucks and you're willing to spend the extra money as opposed to going to the gas station because you think that money will go to help Guatemalan farmers, right? What is also important is to think about your audience and think about the rubric. So we're going to go over this today of how we are viewing the presentation and what is important, right? You'll have this at any kind of meeting, what are the guidelines for the meeting? So it's always important to think about the guidelines.